What's good everyone, I'm Zayas and welcome to my bottom 50 completed manga list of 2023. I was going to do bottom 10, but there's just so many awful manga that I'm going to extend it to 50 and I'll just power through the first 40. Quick recap of how this list works. Basically, I'm ranking these in order of how much I hate them, with 1 being the worst. The series has to have been finished in 2023. It has to have been translated. It can be a manga, manhwa, all the different types count, and ecchi series are also on this list, and some of them are very ecchi as long as they're actually trying to tell a story and not just for other purposes. At number 50, I have the Ichinose family's deadly sins, which, just like Takubi's original sin, kind of just boiled down to shock value. It promised a lot but never really delivered on anything it promised. At number 49, I have Kanojo mo Kanojo, which was funny a little bit of the time, but mostly this thing is just brain-numbingly bad. At number 48, I have My Sweet Dark Hero, which is just an incredibly poorly told story and romance. At number 47, I have this NTR manga that I'm not going to say the full name of, but basically it's not your standard NTR manga. It's about him getting revenge for getting cheated on, but it's just equally as bad, and the revenge is just dumb. At 46, I have I Was the Male Lead's Ex, which is the first of many otome isekais which made it on this list, and recently there's been a huge surge in these, probably because they're like super easy to mass produce. There's even more of these than isekais out there now, so be prepared to see more on this list. Number 45, I have The Villainous' Butler, not quite a manhwa otome series, but still an otome series. This series is all about this kid getting revenge, plotting, planning tea parties. It's all just really boring stuff. Coming in at 44, I have I Get Stronger the More I Eat, which is basically the most derivative power fantasy you can even ever think of. There's literally nothing to the story other than being a power fantasy, and he basically faces no obstacles. It's really bad. At number 43, I have Disillusioned Adventurers Will Save the World, and this one is just extremely generic and doesn't do anything that hasn't been done better before. Just bland, nothing special. At number 42, we have Solving Queen Ophelia's Mysterious Death, and this manga is like a political work where the politics are like what I would imagine a 10-year-old thinks politics are like. At number 41, I have June Peach. This is a regression manga about somebody going back in time to find the right husband, and it's an extremely boring work. Basically nothing ever happens. The romance is lackluster. Everything sucks. At number 40, I have You Can't Change a Person. Sometimes it's important to have subtlety in storytelling, and also the story just kind of sucks on top of that. At number 39, I have The Return of Elena the Knight. I don't even have a description. I don't even know why this was written. This is bad. At 38, I have He Can't Be This Dumb, which, if you want a manga about a girl calling some dude hot every couple pages, this is the work for you. At 37, I have My Bad Younger Man. This is like every shoujo archetype shoved into one work, as many as you could. 36 is The Tyrant's Only Perfumer, which is a work about this perfumer who makes all kinds of important concoctions. And although this sounds like okay, it's really just about her like going around sipping tea and really doing much of nothing. Coming in at 35, I have The Rebirth of the Tyrannical Empress, another awful manhwa which seems like very little effort was put into. 34 is Last Summer Vacation, which is this extremely edgy work about these two girls, and yeah, just way too edgy for me. At 33, I have Agatha, another horrible manhwa, kind of more so aimed at girls, but still just as horrible. At 32, I have Two Sides of the Princess, and at this point I feel like I'm running out of bad stuff to say about otome works, even though like there's plenty bad about them. But yeah, they're just all bad in like kind of the same way. At 31, I have Kiss the Scars of the Girls, and this is like a vampire romance Yuri kind of thing, and by god, this presents like no interesting ideas. Everybody's so one note, all the archetypes are so boring. 30, I have Ice Head Gill, which was Shonen Jump's attempt at writing a new big shonen, and all we really ended up with was this really annoying, preachy little kid with awful villains and just like awful story. This thing was really bad. At 29, I have Do Retry, which is literally just Icehead Gil again. It's a little kid, super annoying, super boring fights. This is an awful shonen work in Shonen Jump. Yeah, I don't know why they put out two of the same work. 28, I have Our Little Empress. And again, this is one of those works which just captures all the worst elements of otome isekais, or just otome works. These social deception things that they play with people, just trying to act cute all the time. It's just a really bad work. At 27, I have Basement Dungeon. This work about this brother and sister going into this dungeon, and it presents absolutely no new ideas. It's literally just the same isekai we've seen all the time, all throughout the years, except it's even worse because they have this like brother-sister dynamic going on. At 26, I have Marry My Husband. Now, this is a revenge romance time travel work, which sounds like it wouldn't work, and it really doesn't. The motivations of characters are so unhinged and odd, it doesn't really all add up. And in doing this, the revenge that's happening also doesn't really add up, and the work just feels so off. At 25, I have When the Villainess is in Love. This is like all the other otome isekais, but at this point, they start to get really bad. There's nothing special about them. They're all the same. The characters you would see before 100 times. It's super generic. Nothing special. At 24, I have Will You Be My Main Lead. Just another really corny romance. At 23, I have Solitary Lady, a revenge work, an otome work. It's just bad. This is a recipe for disaster, and this one is much worse than the previous ones. At 22, I have The Villainess Becomes the Leading Lady. You know, my head hurts trying to describe this work. It's headache inducing. At 21, I have I'll Save the Heroine. It's bad. It's bad. At 20, we have The Admiral's Monstrous Wife, which is about, you know, this girl who's like put down, and then all of a sudden this guy comes along to save her, and he's a prince and everything. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know what there is to like about this work. At 19, we have Eileen's On Fire. This is like the exact opposite of the other work. The other work, you know, she's like depending on another guy. In this work, she's like, you know, I'm just gonna start throwing fire everywhere. And everybody's like, oh my god, she's so cool. Yeah, I don't even know. It's bad. It's bad. At 18, we have The Tyrant's Soft Side. Now, this is like some ingenious storytelling that we've never heard of before. So basically what happens is it's extremely complicated. So this guy that everybody thinks is a ruthless tyrant actually has a soft side. It's incredible. This girl finds his soft side and she's like, oh, only I know about this. It's a story never been told before. No, I'm just kidding. This is horrible. I don't know why people keep mass producing this garbage. At 17, we have this Mao Isekai one, which I'm not going to say the name of again. And yeah, this thing has been done so many times, but they managed to do it worse actually than every time before it. Everything's super jumbled. It's hard to follow. Even though like the plot is simple, it's somehow hard to follow. The characters are boring. The art is awful. Yeah, it's bad. At 16, we have another long title work, which is up here somewhere. But this work is basically about a dude who, instead of trying to defeat the Demon Lord, just enjoys sleeping with his fellow adventurers and just random people everywhere. This thing had no story. The fights were just so bad. I don't even know what the point of reading this is. Nobody wants to read this. At 15, we have how a single coin can change the life of an adventurer. And it's hard to describe this work in terms of how bad it is. It's so bad, I can't find the words. It lacks nuance, it lacks depth, it lacks literally anything. This thing is awful. 14, we have My Father is a Tyrant. It feels like they weren't even trying with this one. I don't even think they tried. This could have been done in like one night or something. At 13, we have All Hail Lady Blanche. And honestly, this is a work that I think not even the author knows the plot of. Like, if you ask the author for a plot summary, he probably couldn't tell you. At 12, we have The Witch and Night Will Survive. And this work has so little common sense, it's hard to get through. The art's okay, but this guy will kidnap this witch, do all sorts of horrible things to her, and be like, well, it's okay. And she'll just kind of get like Stockholm syndrome along. This whole thing is just a complete mess. At 11, we have The Tyrant's Secret Secretary. It's about a girl who's the secretary for this emperor or whatever. and you know, she's so cool, and you know, she's plotting, planning, scheming. Wow, what a powerful girl. No, it's awful. This thing is awful. Who thinks this girl is cool? I don't even know. My head hurts thinking about this. At 10, we have My Childhood Friend Was Broken. This is another feel-good kind of short story type work based off of a hentai work, and this is just so bottom of the barrel and awful. The character designs are literally out of a hentai, and the entire point is just to make you feel bad for this girl and be happy that this guy is saving her. It's like such a scummy, kind of just like dumb, you know, like trying to grab your emotions in a short period of time type of thing. It's just an awful work with literally nothing special about it. Also, it's a romance work with really bad romance. At 9, I have Dying Elf and Apothecary. Now, this is the same thing as the work before this, another short work, except this was even worse, and this got published by Shueisha. Now, again, they're basically just attempting to get you to feel pity for this elf girl, and then be happy when this guy comes along and saves her. This is kind of like akin to what the isekais do, when some dude will buy a slave and take care of her. But again, she's still a slave. This is still awful. What kind of story writing is this? And to make things worse, there's awful romance. They try to develop the characters towards the end of the story, and they end up doing a really awful job, even there. Granted, they only have a couple pages to work with, but they don't do anything good with the few pages they have. It's cheap, disgusting, shallow. The only people who like this are either probably kind of horny, or they might have some type of like savior complex or something. At number 8, I have Mei Tante no Joken. This comes from the author of the Apothecary Diaries, so you expect something good. But in reality, the only thing which is almost passable are the mystery elements. Everything else about this work is so shoddily and lazily thrown together. The art, the plot of girls trying to kill him, just characters, like everything just feels so lazy, and like there was no effort put into this. At number 7, I have Ran Miel, which is this incredibly awful otome isekai, which has this really awful premise about this girl who's trying to destroy the world with her beauty, which is ironic because they didn't even make her hot at all. Combine that with the awful art, the awful characters, the plot being really slow, tons of awful cliches just stuffed in here, the emperor dressing up with a mask just to meet the female lead. It's really, really an abomination of an otome isekai. Number 6, I have 100 Satsujima. This takes me back to the early 2010s where you could find these incredibly cheaply drawn, gory, awful survival series around every corner. And let me say, there is a good reason why these series died out. Awful characters, generic artwork. This is supposed to be frightening, but it's not even scary in the least. To make things work, it feels like everything that was done in here was probably drawn in a very short period of time, like maybe a day or two, because it looks like there was no effort put into any of this. At 5, I have Handsome Must Die. Now, this is supposedly a gag manga, which is kind of weird because I didn't find a singular funny gag in this manga. Everything's super sporadic, and it's kind of framed as being funny because, wow, it's so random and crazy, but it's not funny. There's nothing funny about this. The characters look very similar to one another. They kind of have same face syndrome. There's nothing appealing about this work. I'm glad it was axed. Actually, should have been axed earlier. I can't believe they let 20 chapters of this get out into the world. At 4, we have Taju Kinkaku Kanojo. This thing had terrible art. It really was running on fumes for ideas from the first chapter. It had no idea what it wanted to do. The romance was boring. There was nothing interesting about this. It seemed so incredibly low effort, and it didn't even get a proper ending. And I'm actually happy that it didn't get a proper ending because it didn't deserve a proper ending. 11 chapters was actually a little bit too long. They should have stopped it after like a couple of chapters in. This was bad. I don't know how this got out into the world. At number 3, I have My Life as Inokai-san's Dog. Now, I was on the verge of not including this one because it is an ecchi work and maybe it was made for ecchi purposes, but it does try to tell a story at some point in the manga, especially later on, and that story is awful. Basically, the whole premise is that this guy's this girl's dog, which that alone is enough to tell you that this work is pretty bad. But not only is that the premise, that's like the only idea in this work, and it's ran into the ground over the course of the 60 chapters this work takes place. And the idea is just so badly run into the ground. They try to make it funny, they try to make jokes about it. It's not funny, not even the first time they did it. And there's just nothing appealing about this manga. And to top things off, this is an ecchi manga, and the art is bad. The girls are not even drawn well or appealing. If you saw these girls and you didn't know it was associated with this work, you would think it was pretty boring. You probably wouldn't want to check this out. 2, I have this Invincible Revenge Fixed Damage work, which is basically one of these edgy light novel works where you know the entire plot of the story just by reading the title. And I would argue that reading the title is actually more enjoyable than reading this work. This work is so bad. The characters are forgettable. The art is awful. The story, of course, is dumb. Like, you can literally know the story from one sentence. One singular sentence is the entire story. The characters' motivations make no sense. These characters wronged him or whatever. Their motivations make zero sense. I don't know how anybody can read this work and be like, man, it's great that he's getting revenge on these. It's an awful work. Honestly, strong contender for number 1. But yeah, at number 1, I have Ijimiro Yabai Yatsu, claiming the number 1 spot. Basically, this work isn't fully translated yet, but I'm assuming it will be sometime in the near future, and enough of it is translated for me to know that this work is really bad. Basically, it says it's a psychological work, but what's really happening is just people do really crazy and insane things that just make very little sense. It's basically so off the wall that it makes absolutely zero sense. The whole bullying aspect is extremely drawn out and long. They talk about bullying for like 100 chapters. 100 chapters, and it's not even real bullying. It's this imaginary fake bullying, hypothetically. I don't even know what to say about this. Like, this work is just like so off the walls and so crazy. It's not rooted in like reality at all. Maybe that would be the point if you enjoyed it, but it's so crazy to the point where it literally makes no sense. The work just doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, let me know what you thought about my list. What would your list have? Or like, if you disagree with some manga that I placed in here or why, yeah, just leave a comment or whatever. Okay, thank you everyone for watching. If you watch this far, next lists are coming soon. Sadly, it will only be a top 10 list for the next one, for the best completed. So I'm also doing ongoing this year for sure, which I've already started as well. So bottom and top ongoing. And then I was thinking maybe doing new, but like, again, that's like a time thing. I can't really think of what manga I need to review in the near future. So, I mean, if you have any ideas for big manga right now, I can review them. So, thank you for watching. New list coming soon, hopefully within a few days. I'm basically done. And yeah, thank you. Like and subscribe, leave a comment about manga. See you.